It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 423. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
And Kodra.
Hi.
It feels terribly weird not to have a Tam or a Thalen.
I had to, like, everyone was being too normal. I had to do something at the intro.
Yeah.
Just classic delay that's going to get edited out to earn a laugh from Bel.
That only makes it seem weird, like, why is Bel laughing?
Why is Bel laughing? That's the secret. We've been lying about the edits. Bel just laughs maniacally like that at times.
Yeah. I just have moments every so often. So I have had a weird year so far in that, like, I have always been somebody that only like reads 1 or 2 books a year, and I am now on my 13th book of the year.
Ooh.
So like, to some extent I'm cheating, because I have discovered that I really like playing mechanically interesting games while also listening to audiobooks. So all but 3 of them have been audiobooks.
Okay.
But basically after Christmas we discovered something called the Libby App, and I don't know if you're aware of it. Basically it is a super simple way that bridges the gap between a library and digital consumption of items from a library. So, like, if you have a library card, chances are your library probably supports it, and you just log in and key in your library card, and then you can check things out through it. So I have been rediscovering what access levels the library has now, because, like, I remember early, like, I had not had a library card for a really long time, just because I go by the library very often. And I remember early in the ebook reader era trying to get it connected up, and it was kind of a pain in the butt. But this basically makes it super simple, and to the point where, like, yesterday we went to another library so we could get another card so that we could expand what offerings we had available to us, like how many copies of what books were available at any given time. So yeah, like, it's been kind of interesting.
So what books have you been reading?
So I basically read all of the Gideon the Ninth series, which is Gideon the Ninth and Harrow the Ninth and Nona the Ninth. That was a series of books that, like, I had heard good things about. I basically had, like, this list of books that people have recommended to me over the years, and I am slowly chipping away at that. They're interesting.
I'm on the second one now.
Like, they're kind of weird, but they're mostly a good kind of weird. Like, the writing style is a little bit odd to get used to.
So I had a conversation about it because I was struggling with the writing style in Gideon the Ninth, and then the revelation was recognizing that the author is from New Zealand and lives in the UK. And, like, once I read the words with that accent in my head, everything made sense and it was fine for the rest of the book.
But, like, okay, so how have you enjoyed the second one so far?
So I really like it. I think that it's hilarious that the characters that we identify with more reflect the way that we express ourselves in video game characters.
Yep.
Like, absolutely, of course, I like the person who's sort of the necromancer who is gonna go solve puzzles and defeat people with her mind and, like, spell power, and of course Bel.
I identify with Gideon, the character that is being forced to use a one-hander but would much rather use a two-hander.
She just wants her big sword.
Yeah. It's a weird book series. It's kind of like, I think I described it as like, what if Dune but necromancers? Like, I don't know, like it's this whole set, like, post-apoc setting where like people are necromancers, like everybody's a necromancer of some sort. Um Also, like, death metal Hogwarts. That's what the first book reminded me of, because like there's this whole thing factoring into like the 9 houses of this setting.
I just kind of love that everybody's a necromancer, but like each of the houses has their special flavor of
Yep.
necromancy that you don't see a lot.
Like
Like,
the whole medic necromancers, which was just not something I was expecting.
yeah, that
I
was
mean,
cool.
in Dungeons and Dragons, healing has always been a necromancy spell.
Yeah. Like, it's a really cool setting. Like, I really like sci-fi and or fantasy novels that like do a lot of world building, and this definitely does a lot of world building. And then, so the thing that I struggled with is the two books have wildly different tone. Like, it is a night and day difference between the two books. And the third book is also wildly different, but like each one is written from the perspective of a different character. um like, another series that I read just because I had all of the books that I was waiting on were still out on hold. I ended up reading a book series that begins with a novel called The Last Watch, that is kind of like Halo meets the military aspect of Mass Effect, meets Battlestar Galactica, and like it's basically there was this war with a progenitor race, and they've all disappeared, and there's like a bunch of these ships from that war that have largely been stranded on the edge of the known universe to like watch this thing called the Divide, which is like a gravitational uh disturbance, and they're just out there in space, uh left to rot for the most part. But it's a sequence of events happens. It's interesting, and I immediately turned around and consumed the second book, which was Exiled Fleet, and that's really a good series by J.S. Dews, Dewes. And then other than that, I've been catching up on Dresden, so like I have now 100% caught up, and I just started a novel his son wrote. Did not know that was a thing that existed, but a friend of mine read it, and now I'm curious, so I'm reading it too. But yeah, like, it's just I kind of have this hit list of, you know, like Lies of Loch Lamora was another one that I had heard good things about, and I read that, and like I think I'm gonna continue on in that series, but
Jam has told me I should read that many times, and I still haven't gotten around to it.
I think he'd like it. Like,
Jam recommended it to me.
It took me a while to get into. Like, Tam also recommended it to me originally, and then I think Neff also recommended it to me. Um, it's very Oliver Twist meets Dishonored.
So are you doing this while you're playing some sort of ARPG for the most part?
Either ARPGs or like I've been doing, achievements in Guild Wars most recently. Chipping away on my Sky Scale while listening to a book.
I really enjoy games that allow me to do something else, like to let me have something, like playing game while also enjoying some form of entertainment.
Right. Yeah. Like,
I just can't really do this ever.
Yep, I get it.
Like, for me, it's I can have something mechanically going on, and I can have something different narratively going on.
Yep.
But like I can't be paying attention to the story in a game and doing like watching a show or listening to an audiobook or listening to a podcast. Like, those are two different sides of my brain, and they could be engaged in different things, but like they can't mix.
I have been working my way through Hell of a Boss while playing some mindless games.
And like, it doesn't have to be like a mindless game. It just needs to be a game that I have mostly committed to muscle memory.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the perfect game that like I look for these games because I really enjoy the experience of doing this. New World was like the perfect game,
Oh yeah,
especially when it's like even like them improving their story almost made it worse.
I know.
Like when their story was utter garbage and I just did not care one bit, I was able to be like, oh yeah, I am gonna go around, I'm gonna hit rock, hit tree, I'm gonna do my routes, and I'm gonna enjoy a podcast or a YouTube show.
Yeah, like it is such my happy place when I can do two different things and feel like I'm sufficiently engaged in both of them.
Yeah, it depends on what. Like, I do feel like Guild Wars achievements are actually like they are not just mindless grinds in a lot of cases. There's usually a little bit more going on than I'm able to fully disengage with that one. But Path of Exile was also excellent.
Yeah, like there's been a couple times while I'm doing the sky scale stuff where I had to like pause
Yeah,
because like I had to put a little too much focus on what I was doing.
yeah. When you're like when there are some things that it's like, oh, I have to go around a map and collect all of these POIs and figure this out. Like doing metas is more engagement than I can do and still consume media otherwise.
So like I was doing
I feel like I can do Dragon's Den more or less automatically now, but most of the others are kind of like that.
I was doing the collect all the sky scales, and I was doing that with Blish HUD turned on, which basically just painted them on my screen, and I have to figure out how to get to the thing on my screen.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah, because like if I was having to decipher the clues of where the hell the scales were, no.
I was second screening a map, which is a little bit more than Blish HUD.
Yeah.
They are very clever achievements. I need to get back into grinding for my my legendary because there's some super mindless stuff in there. But yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like it's been enjoyable for me, and like I'd originally like I'm tracking stuff with this app called Bookworm, which is another federated app, but it's kind of like federated Goodreads. Because the problem is like there's 4 readers on my Amazon account that all consume things at their own style, and so it would be madness to try and keep track of what is mine and what is theirs. So I started doing stuff with Goodreads, and like when I set it up, I basically like set a goal of 20 books, and like I'm already part of the way through 13. So I think I'm gonna easily beat that one this year.
I'm definitely jealous of people who can enjoy audiobooks. I don't know what it is in my brain, but I just cannot pay attention to them if I am doing anything else.
Yeah,
And
that's the way my partner is like cannot like if doing audio can only do audio.
And like I can put a movie on or a TV show and play a game and pay attention to both of them and have no problem. But whatever it is, like my brain just does not want to pay attention to an audiobook. It will not focus on it. It will be playing and like 10 minutes will go by and I will suddenly realize I have not heard a word. But it's okay because I love books. So reading as opposed to audiobooks is fine.
And for years, honestly, like I thought I was a very slow reader. Partially because, you know, my wife can like burn through 3 or 4 books a day. Like during the summer. And so that was what I was comparing it against. But you know, like I don't know, like I couldn't get an audiobook for the second book in the Divide series, The Exiled Fleet. So like I wanted to find out what happened because like the first book kind of ended on a cliffhanger. And I burned through that book in like, I don't know, 2 days. So I guess I can read perfectly fine if sufficiently motivated. Okay. What are these character questionnaires you're speaking of, Ash?
So I am getting ready to play in a 5e game run by someone not involved in this group.
Ah,
And part of setup for that game, they handed out a questionnaire. They're like, hey, if you fill this out, you can have an extra feat at first level. But this questionnaire is like, it was incredibly useful to just get a sense of like who this character is before the game even starts. Usually I have some sense of like, I want this character to be kind of like this, but this went way more in depth.
so what all is on the questionnaire? Can you give some examples?
Yeah, one of the things is like, how does your character cope with stress? Or list some non-familiar NPC relationships, like maybe what their role is and how long your character has known them.
Okay.
These are super useful, especially from my understanding, if you are playing in a game that is like entirely homebrew, to have hooks for characters to motivate them. Because like it definitely is much more effective if a player is like got some investment in the plot and in the world, and they're getting that through their character.
Yeah, and from the player side, this is just, it gives you a sense of things you might care about, things that might be important before even session 0.
Mm-hmm. Does a good job. Go ahead.
It's definitely been a thing I'm thinking about regarding RPG mechanics in general. Although admittedly, the other things made me think about that is Madara.
Madara is also doing, like, Madara is introducing you to characters that are very fleshed out as well, and have backstories that you, the player, might not even fully understand, which is another interesting thing.
Yeah, so as a result, I've been having a lot of character design and encounter design thoughts. Because this is 5e, I expect most of those encounter design thoughts to not be relevant, but still.
Alas, poor 5e. Your encounter design is so terrible. I do now, in retrospect, wonder how much of our 5e encounter design issue was the fact that maybe I was playing a character that was broken on so many axes that I didn't even realize.
Our party was full of characters that were broken on different axes.
Yeah. And maybe that's why like we were regularly defeating CRs 10 above our level. But again, encounter design in that game is very hard because of that wide gulf.
Yes. But it was kind of refreshing just to go through this and to go, nah. So I have more to go on than just running through Hero Forge to make my character and having some idea of their personality.
One of the questions I have a lot when dealing with these is how much to build in intra-party connectivity in these like pre-sessions 0 character designs. I kind of go back and forth, and I think it depends on the game you're trying to tell.
Yeah, this one doesn't have any of that specifically, except a number of the characters are fairly well traveled. We're starting at moderately high level, specifically level 8.
Are you starting having an expectation that you've been working with the rest of the party you're in?
Not specifically, no.
Okay. So, like, there's going to be some, like, you're all have individual storied backgrounds, and something's going to bring your group together as a party.
Correct.
See, I'm usually, when I'm starting at higher levels, I'm more likely to want to have some sort of connectivity. Because while it makes sense for, like, a bunch of random level 1s to just sort of get thrown together via circumstances, usually once you're a little bit more seasoned or traveled, there's a bit more planning going on into your operations.
In this particular case, the circumstance is an expedition.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Like, everyone is being pulled together to go, everyone's individually getting hired to work as a group.
Right. So it's possible for our characters to have heard of each other and actually been asked for some rumors that other people in the party may or may not know.
Yeah.
But also, these characters aren't specifically related to each other. I'm eager to see how it works out, and it's been, even the pre-session stuff has been really cool so far.
That's awesome. I remember when I was in college, our GM would do this, where, and for us, it was usually portrayed, we had a bit more of an antagonistic relationship in GM terms, but it was all in good fun. But it was like, I'll give you some extra power if you give me hooks that I can use against your characters. It's like, okay. I always enjoyed it though because it does make the game feel a little bit more lived in, a little bit more fleshed out, rather than your character getting buffeted back and forth by the events. Like your character has some stake in the things going on. I know some people don't like it because it leads to like a protagonist of the week. Like this time we're going to be working on this character's side story. But usually I don't have a problem with it because it's like everyone is there to support each other, and as long as your group is cool with that, like we're all a party and we're all friends and we're all here to help each other out, then it works out. It becomes a problem when you have people that are a little bit more selfish in their role playing, but that's always a problem.
Yeah.
My general advice from when I do LARPing and when I do tabletop is to try and build a character that is going to be both a good protagonist and a good foil to other characters. Everyone's the protagonist and everyone's the lancer.
So, Kodra, you were talking about Strawberry Jam last week.
Yes.
Has that officially happened now?
It's come out. Strawberry Jam came out yesterday. I probably should have preloaded it because it was like a tiny file of levels and then like probably several large files of high quality assets and audio. Yeah, Strawberry Jam. They've got like over 300 people credited on this project. It's impressive. I spent all day yesterday streaming it. I beat all the way through the beginner lobby, which had some just incredibly cool levels in it. It's based on Celeste. The beginner lobby is probably like all the way up to the summit. About half of the B-sides is about where you need to be able to do the beginner lobby. And it's a lot of fun. I'm like, there's a lot of cool new mechanics. There's a lot of very cool screens for you to enjoy. Nothing too terrible. And then there's a couple of puzzle levels that are technically not requiring any tech, which makes it very funny because while they don't require you to like be able to efficiently move throughout the levels and or do any complicated tech, they're definitely there to help melt your brain, and I had a lot of fun with those. There's a level that's about using Kevin blocks and blocks that move from keys to Sokoban your way through pixel perfect drops. Basically the idea being that you can have a perfectly Madeline wide gap between two sets of spikes, and theoretically you could jump and Madeline could fall straight through if you were able to line everything up pixel perfect. But good luck doing that without a setup. The idea was you need to move blocks around until you're able to jump into a block and have it perfectly set you up to make the drop. It's definitely a very cool concept for like a platformer Sokoban that I had not seen before. And I would recommend, if that's interesting, like might be worth checking out the Strawberry Jam just for something like that. There was also a level that was entirely designed to be played blindfolded with a partner guiding you through it. If you don't want to do that, they have a single player mode where they blank out the screen and they have the NPC give you like instructions about what you should do on the screen. But I got one of our friends to hop on Discord with me and walk me through while I had a pillowcase on my head. It was very fun.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at your stream just to see you playing with a pillowcase on your head.
Yeah, no, I will clip that out and I will send that around. It's definitely quite a thing. It was funny. He didn't realize, like, at the end of every screen is a binoculars, which lets you look back and see everything you did. And that's there so that once you've completed everything, your partner's supposed to, like, say, okay, now you can look and see what you did. And we finally figured that out at the end. He had a good time once we got to the heart trying to convince me that it was going to be this very gnarly level that he wasn't sure how to walk me through, up until like text started coming up telling me that I was done. There are 21 levels in beginner side. There's 5 different difficulties. So if you've played up through Farewell, like you should be able to do beginner and intermediate, and you might be willing to learn some new tricks into advanced and keep going. They do a very good job of they have very good gyms that are designed to like really teach you all of the mechanics that you'll need in any given level, so that nothing should be an on-the-fly learning for you. And if you really want to get into it, they built a library that has detailed explanations of every single mechanic you could possibly want to know about in Celeste. Other things, the art is gorgeous. The music is incredible. There is an entire level based on levels from the letter V 6 times. I have now had Madeline doing it the hard way.
Of course they would pick that one.
Yup. They implemented that. They also implemented Lab. And what's the other one? Oh my goodness. What's the one where you're screen wrapping and warping?
See, I'm thinking of the trinket called Edge Games, but I don't remember the name of the general area that is.
Yeah, and they do have Edge Games as one of the maps you have to do. And they make you do that rather than just go up through the center. And so, of course, they had to implement like custom fields that would have battle in reverse gravity. There is a level that is like it's a level mostly featuring like these very cool pipes that act as like oddly shaped dream blocks effectively, but it's just so clearly like aesthetically a Mega Man level that I just call it the Mega Man level. It's got a Mega Man soundtrack. It's got a Mega Man like art design. It is definitely aware that it is a Mega Man level. It's very fun. The song is incredible because Mega Man tracks are great. But yeah, a whole bunch of new Celeste content. And obviously a lot of love has been put into it. So the overworld where you have to like sort of go around and find all of the different levels now has like a bench warp system so that you can easily traverse it if you want to. The heart sides are improved because now instead of being like one screen that has 5 different levels smashed together, they're all single levels for a checkpoint. Because some of the more difficult heart sides were frustrating from a perspective of you have to beat 4 in a row before you even get a chance to try the 5th section. And reconfiguring your brain for each of them is a challenge, especially if they're supposed to be like harder than normal sections.
I don't know. It's fun. It's Celeste. There's a lot going on with it. The art design is gorgeous. It's very strawberry jam flavored.
Yeah, I've seen some folks talking about it in my feeds, other than you. So like it seems to have been a coalescing moment in that community.
Yeah, it's definitely like it really makes you appreciate the community watching everyone do it. And like we're pulling in a lot of other streamers who are like, let's check this thing out, and getting to see what the Celeste community's been up to. It's fun watching that happen. There is one map that I've really enjoyed watching other streamers do where there's a special item that freezes the in-game time for basically everything except for your movements, and time doesn't restart until you run out of dashes. So it becomes this big puzzle of how do I leverage this fact that time is stopped to go and collect a key and then get past, like basically what they do is they have a key gate where to exit the level, one gate will close, but right before another gate will rise. So you have to like collect the key and then manage to save a dash up until you're between the two gates and then restart time. I will say, if anyone is interested in doing Seeing is Believing, the blindfolded one, and needs somebody to walk them through it, I'm happy to do that. It sounds like it would be very fun to walk somebody through it.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it would be interesting to watch as well.
Oh, it's very interesting to watch. And there are a lot of people streaming it right now, as I was saying. There's a lot of interest.
So this next topic, I'm not even sure how to walk into this one, but so Twitter is a cesspool right now. It just continues to get worse. Trying to monetize SMS authentication is the latest thing.
So I'm less convinced it's like we're about money anymore. Like it really does seem to be just a pure ego trip for.
No, it really does. Like, I mean,
you sure? Because I think he just doesn't want to pay text message fees.
That's probably it too.
I think he's upset. No. I really do think like at least part of it is he thinks this might juice Blue subscriptions, and he is currently being proven wrong that like he said people would pay for Blue and currently they aren't.
Yeah, like I had seen some number that was like 0.001% of users are paying for Blue.
Yeah, like why would you?
Yeah. And what the reality that's happening instead is we keep having wave after wave of people migrating to Mastodon and other Fediverse instances.
I'm just saying that we really want to make sure we're supporting a company run by somebody honorable like John Mastodon.
John Mastodon isn't asking us for our money. So I am helping out with a instance now called Gamepad.club. After the fiasco that happened with the other one I talked about.
Belle, do I need to get out the squirt bottle?
You do. Because I am now an admin on that
This
site.
is you doing the thing we told you not to do.
Yeah. So, like, I've known Gaz for a long time, and this is the second instance that Gazimov has created. He learned a bunch of lessons while doing MMORPG.social. Basically, like, how not to build the server and how he would do it all over again, more sustainable. But after the other gaming instance that I was supposed to be helping out with kind of had some bad stuff going on, he decided that he would take another stab at it. So I've been in side communication while he was planning it. And at this point, the instance has been up for a couple weeks. Like we're slowly gaining people. Like it's not any kind of rush. But one of the true things that like is an experience that everybody ends up having on the Fediverse is sooner or later you're going to migrate instances. That's just part of the game. Like that's I've migrated I think 10 times in total throughout since 2018. So like I've been on a bunch of different instances. Each time I migrate, there's a different perfectly valid reason. But like that's just part of the world. And right now there's a bunch of migrations happening.
I am going to suggest that this is a problem.
I think it's a feature, not a bug. Well, so like the reason why I say it's a feature, not a bug, is for the last couple weeks, the flagship instance has been getting mass denial of service attacks, and most of the instances just didn't even know that was happening. Did not even care because it wasn't really directly impacting them. So to some extent, like there's a self-healing nature to the network, and recently we had a fairly large instance announced that we're shutting down, and as a result, like 17,000 people are having to find a new home. And it's been interesting to watch this because like I've seen it played in the media as this is the death of the Fediverse.
Whatever.
But what's really happened is like all these admins have put out the welcome mat and like, hey, if you're losing your instance, we welcome you. So there's been two fairly high profile ones recently. One of them was regional specific. The other one was Mastodon.lol, which was the 17,000 person one. And both of them have been kind of for not amazing reasons, but folks have migrated to other instances and life continues on. It is way better than it used to be now that the move option exists. It did not work like that for the longest time, where you just had to like import your friends list and that was all you got to do. So a lot of like the move option kind of, for the most part, seamlessly moves you. You don't move your content, which is the only other annoyance, but it's just been interesting to watch like big instances go under, and at the same time, almost universally folks have been throwing out the welcome mat, trying to make sure those folks know that there's another home out there for them.
I will say my biggest takeaway is it's nice having a smaller local instance, so that because federated is a little bit of a total mess. And local for me on my previous big instance was also kind of just a total mess.
Right. It like local doesn't really feel like anything when you're on 100,000 person server or more.
Yeah, no, it sure doesn't. It just feels like a slightly different federated.
Right. And to some extent, like what Gaz has done with Gamepad kind of is the best of both worlds, because like if you're not well federated, there's some stuff that doesn't work real well, like hashtags and things like that. But we've signed on to a bunch of relays, which basically are gap fillers to help you federate with a lot of instances at once.
Yeah, I want to have hashtag visibility for like my specific interests to make sure that people who are talking about those show up in my home feed.
Right. Yeah, because we're federated with a little over 9,000 different instances via these relays. Because by default, how federation works is you're basically linked to every server that someone on your instance is following. So like if you're following someone on Mastodon.social, like a user on your instance is following them, well then you're federating with that server. But if you're on a really, really, really small server with only a couple people that aren't following many people, then the federation is going to be kind of sparse. And as a result, hashtags are going to be kind of sparse. But these relays step in to kind of juice that process to make it feel like you have all the benefits of a large server, but none of the negatives.
Yeah, no, and then the small server vibe of like just being able to go to local and being able to consume local, it's really nice. And mostly it's people who I follow talking.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about this local is just like, these are all people I was following anyway. Okay, it's just a different way to consume the same people. The only annoyance though is like I had created some lists to kind of help focus some of the like there's people that I follow that like don't talk very often, but I don't want to miss when they say something. So like I had some lists to try and fix that. But there's no way to like you can export your list, but currently in the server software there's no way to import lists. So like I haven't recreated them all yet. That's annoying because I especially use it on the mobile client, as it's a good way to kind of have a nice feed to consume. Anyway, if you're looking for a good server, we are always looking for folks on Gamepad, though we're not actively recruiting people. I don't think we're ever going to put it not on authorized applications, so that like you have to actually kind of write a note for us to pay attention and approve the account.
A human has to look at the account, which means that probably a human has to be on the other side.
Yeah, that's the hope, is that just the simple fact of tell us why you want to be on. If you put any answer in there, it's probably going to get approved.
I just said that you were putting me in a bus.
Yeah, I saw it.
I mean, the correct answer is because Belle is an influencer.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's not wrong.
Yeah,
Or
but I
will
hate
that
term.
get you? Will that get you banned?
No, because I accept plenty of grief from all of you. So this last topic, I ended up watching a video this week about someone talking about the new Lion's Arch, the new old Lion's Arch. So apparently, like, by doing all the achievements for Living World Season 1, you can get a key that will let you go to a version of Old Lion's Arch in Guild Wars 2. And like the absence of Living World 1 and the destruction of Lion's Arch has always been kind of a point of contention for a lot of people. And even after ArenaNet went to the trouble of putting it in so you can go to Old Lion's Arch again, this video was mostly talking about the ways that it's not quite right, that it's not quite the same. So that sent me down this mental path of, has there ever been a situation in an online game where the world was destroyed and or significantly changed
And it wasn't a mistake.
and it wasn't a mistake? Because, like, thinking back, okay, so EverQuest 1 to EverQuest 2. The story of EverQuest 2 is that Lucklin blew up the moon in over Norath and rained down shards and caused this cataclysmic event. And as a result, you end up with all these islands that are not quite the continents they were before. And the players universally hated that. They wanted to go into a world that was just time had passed and you could still go to the same places and see them in blazing high def. Cataclysm, like I can remember, myself included, lots of people lamented the changes to a number of the zones that were brought on by that, and that there's no way to really experience the old zones anymore.
They blew up the park in Stormwind for no good reason.
Right, exactly. The park in Stormwind was great. Like Living World Season 1 is now back in the game, and it's awesome that that hole has been plugged, but it was a major point of contention until they did it.
So, Living World Season 1 has some really big problems with why it was needed. I actually think it really was needed because the game as it is, like, the way you play it is you finish the main story, or probably, preferably, you don't finish the main story because it's kind of terrible now. But then, like, immediately the next thing you could have done is Living World Season 2, which is, like, dropping you in with a bunch of characters you don't know as a player, but who your character clearly, like, is very close to. And all of those foundational relationship building moments and beats happen in Living World Season 1. Living World Season 1 needed to be back for that flavor. I don't actually think Old Lion's Arch is that relevant. I think New Lion's Arch is quite interesting to look at and is more fun to be in, and I'm not sold by the need for Old Lion's Arch.
I don't lament the Old Lion's Arch at all. It was kind of a pain to move around. Like I like what they call, like the old players that are diehard about Old Lion's Arch call the new one Disneyland Lion's Arch. I'm fine with it. Like, it's beautiful. Like, it's a great city.
I miss Old Lion's Arch. It definitely felt more like a place than the new Lion's Arch does.
From a, like, perspective of, like, there's more like empty space, or like what are you looking for as in terms of place? Because I know we've had this conversation as well, and I'm interested.
So New Lion's Arch, I mean, people call it Disneyland Lion's Arch for a reason. It's got all of these big fancy concrete structures that are made to resemble sea creatures, and it doesn't feel like this cobbled together place made from, like, ships that just happen to end up here.
Got it.
There's still like a tiny section that's trying to still be like that, but the whole city was like that before. So yes, the new one is very pretty, but it feels less like Lion's Arch. I was, however, going to mention the not the Cataclysm. I don't even remember what Final Fantasy calls this, but Final Fantasy blowing up their whole entire world.
Right. Like Post a Realm Reborn, or
Yep.
like, yeah, that definitely worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one worked.
And also, like, there are not a lot of some people regret missing the storyline. Nobody misses the world because the world sucked, quite frankly. There was a lot of repetition because they didn't know how to make zones when that game first came out.
The other one that I was going to throw out as it was bad for the game, is Destiny. I mean, like, the first 2 expansions of Destiny just don't exist anymore. They're just gone. Like, so very little of the content from the first 3 or 4 years of the game even exists. And I know personally that has adversely impacted my desire to play the game.
Yeah, that one feels so weird to me because on the one hand, you can almost see, like, okay, there's less to get through to get to the stuff people care about right now. That's maybe a plus, but there's all this history and story, and there's just no way to access that. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like, as someone who was like played for a while, if I went back, I would be very confused. I don't know. It just seems like such a strange choice to just delete that.
Well, I mean, your choice now to catch up is to have to watch somebody's 4 or 5 hour long video recapping
No,
the
thank
history
you.
of what happened. Because, like, I keep being told that, like, the story is really good right now, but I've missed a couple of years of it, and I don't want to have to watch YouTube to catch up to it. And I know I'm not going to be able to play it. Like, it's just not even a thing I can do. But it does seem like every so often there's a situation where a game company decides to reboot the world, and it still seems like it's a universally bad thing when it happens, for the most part, other than ARR.
It's definitely dangerous. Gotta be smart when you do it.
I mean, we just listed off one good example and multiple mixed or negative examples. Like, be real careful about it, I guess.
Any other topics anybody has?
There are some Final Fantasies put out with surprisingly good music, which I sort of knew already, but it's been emphasized a little more lately. But we'll talk about that more next time, probably.
Yep. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.